Hi, I'm Kathy Johnson from Pyramid of Potential, and this is video number 50 of 60 of the Harnessing Learning Potential video series. Today we're talking about math in general. So perhaps you know somebody who has some math difficulties. The question is, what are the causes of those math difficulties? Well, it depends on what problems they're having. For example, do they have a problem with math sense and reasoning? And if so, I want you to watch the next video on dyscalculia. Do they have a problem with sequencing, like understanding how numbers go one after the other? I did have one child who she didn't have the ability to sequence and to count one object, one thing. But after about a month of some very specific things, integrating her reflexes, her primitive reflexes, and developing her brain, she was then able to count one-on-one and understand how to add and subtract. Another question is, does the person have a problem with remembering math facts? Maybe they never developed a very good memory. Or perhaps they're able to do simple math, but not complicated math. And here, we might be looking at an issue with working memory. So let me give you an example of what can happen if somebody has low working memory and they're trying to do some math things. You could have a student who, like this one 4th grade girl I was working with, she could do math, and I was working with her to multiply whole numbers by fractions. And she was able to get through one fairly easily, held it together, got through the process, and then as soon as she was done, like this wall comes up, her eyes got all glassy, and I say, do you know what 2 plus 2 is? And she's like, huh? She was like gone. Her low working memory had caused her to use up all of her brain that she could, and then it just kind of like fell apart. Mel Levine calls it mental fatigue. She could do one problem, but she couldn't do many problems in a row. Here's an issue of working memory. And working memory with math, it's so important because when we get into complicated math, we have to remember our facts. We have to remember the instructions. We have to remember the concepts. We have to remember the steps and where we are. And so any person who can't do mental math, like carrying and borrowing in their head, they've probably got an issue with low working memory. But it can be fixed. Okay, like anything else we've been talking about in this video series, it can be fixed. So the question is, well, what do we do? Well, you use the pyramid of potential, all the steps in the pyramid of potential to set up the brain. Okay, are there issues with nutrition and stress? Deal with those. Next, everybody that I've worked with who has had learning issues has had problems with retained primitive reflexes. So if you haven't learned about those yet, go back in this video series towards the beginning and read or listen, watch, learn about primitive reflex integration. The next step, once they can do that, is dealing with their sensory integration, especially vision. I mean, if they can't see easily the problems on the page, they're going to have an issue. And then up from there is cognitive skills. Well, the cognitive skills like memory and attention and processing speed and reasoning skills. Boy, we need those reasoning skills for those word problems. Okay, that can be another issue that you're seeing with math. Once you set up the brain through the pyramid of potential, then it's time to actually do some remediation. An example is when I'm working with a student, I won't work with them on their homework. No, they can do their homework with a tutor or their parents or something like that. What they need is filling in the blanks down below. the blanks that they never got to. So perhaps they don't really understand numbers and the number line and units versus tens versus hundreds, etc. So we've got to fill in those blanks so that then by the time we get to the lesson that they're working on in school, that they can be successful. So that's basically it that I have to talk to you about with math. The next lesson is going to be on dyscalculia, and that is a very specific learning disability about math. See you then.